Und nun spricht für die Fraktion Europa der Freiheit und der Demokratie Herr Farage für 2 Minuten.
Well, Mr Barroso, I enjoyed your view of the world today, but it was perhaps rather more ironic than you'd intended. You talked about the events in Egypt and elsewhere, saying, isn't it wonderful that people are rising up seeking democracy? I would remind you that democracy is a method whereby you vote for people who govern you, and then if you don't like what they do, you can get rid of them, turf them out and put somebody else in. But it was ironic because then your next sentence was, and that is why in Europe, facing the euro crisis, we must reinforce the community method. Now, for the public watching in on this, which increasingly they do, the community method means that laws are proposed in secret by unelected bureaucrats, people like you. Oh yes, I know, the European Parliament voted for you, but you were the only candidate that was offered to us. That isn't democracy. So you're saying on the one hand democracy is good, but on the other, in Europe we can't have it, and that was reinforced. Mr Verhofstadt, who comes from Belgium, who thinks all nation states should be abolished, well perhaps his own will be very shortly, is saying we want an economic union. Nobody has voted for it. Nobody has been asked whether they want it. You may vote for it, but the peoples of Europe have not voted for it. Now what you should be discussing at your summit on Friday is Portugal, because after the bailouts in Greece and Ireland, it's pretty obvious the markets are sending you all a message. Come in, number 3, your time is up. Portuguese bond yields on Monday hit 7.6%. You know that yourself. It was only at 7%, of course, when it got there that Ireland had to be bailed out. We've also got, in April, a massive rollover of Portuguese debt, another 20 billion that has to be rolled over. Remind ourselves, in the last 6 months, 80% of Portuguese debt was brought up, purchased by the European Central Bank. We cannot go on, as a European Union, buying our own debt. If we do, the next debt crisis won't be a country, but it will be a debt crisis of the European Central Bank itself.
Herzlichen Dank, Mr. Farage. Es gibt eine Frage von Martin Schulz an Sie. Erlauben Sie das? Bitte schön, Herr Schulz.
Enormously, thank you.
Herr Schulz, bitte sehr.
Was hat er gesagt? Frau Präsidentin, vielen Dank. Ich unterstelle, dass Sie es nicht wissen, aber ich habe eine Frage an Sie. Weil Sie ja ständig Belgien als nicht existente Nation bezeichnen, das haben Sie Herrn Van Rompuy ja auch schon gesagt, und jetzt haben Sie Herrn Kollegen Verhofstadt wieder in diesen Zusammenhang gebracht. Ist Ihnen bekannt, auf welcher Grundlage der belgische Staat gegründet worden ist?
I'm pleased you asked me that. The difficulty is when you form an artificial state that has within it more than one language group, which is clearly the case in Belgium, and you may for a period of time be able to hold it together, but whether it's Belgium, whether it's Yugoslavia or whether it's the European Union, if you have entirely different languages and cultures, it will not hold together. And the reason you're so upset about Belgium, and Mr Van Rompuy got terribly upset about it, and Mr Verhofstadt never likes it, isn't the truth, Mr Schulz, that Belgium is a microcosm for the whole European project?
Es gibt eine weitere Nachfrage und noch eine Frage von Herrn de Rossa, auch noch
Frau
später
Präsidentin,
sprechen wird. Bitte schön, eine kurze
vielen Dank.
Nachfrage.
Ja, das dauert nur 30 Sekunden. Ich stelle fest, der Vertreter einer Partei, die sich United Kingdom Independence Party nennt, weiß nicht, dass das belgische Königreich gegründet worden ist auf Vorschlag des United Kingdom. Vielen Dank.
So, ich glaube, es war keine Frage. Insofern glaube ich, können wir zur nächsten blauen Frage übergehen. Wenn Sie erlauben, Herr Farage, dann würden wir die auch noch nehmen, bevor wir in die Rednerliste wieder zurückkehren. Herr de Rossa, bitte schön. Mikrofon.
I hope Mr Farage is not offended by a question from a citizen of the Irish Republic. Could I ask him what is the basis of the United Kingdom? I understand it consists of the nations of the English, the Scottish, the Welsh and the Northern Irish. Is this not a union of nations? A very proud one, I might add.
So, Herr Farage, bitte sehr.
By the way, Mr Schulz, you are quite right. Belgium was a British invention and a British mistake. We have made many over the years. We have got some things right and some things wrong, just as your country, Germany. Germany's history has not been whiter than white. I think you might agree. You are quite right. I mean, actually, holding together the United Kingdom has been something that has been deeply troubling, and indeed Ireland went its own way back in, was it 1921 I think, when independence for Ireland was established. You are right, it is very difficult to hold together different cultures. I do think that the union of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland at the moment works because it has consent. If it did not have consent, then there would be popular calls for referendums and those nations would be able to break away. But my point to you, sir, is that in this European Union nobody is being given that opportunity.
Herzlichen Dank.